Hi, everybody. Dr. Carolyn here. Today, I want to talk to you about how to use skills to stop binging and overeating and obsessing about food now. And I know skills aren't the sexiest topic that anyone wants to listen to, but it's a very important topic. And it's something that gives you a specific action you can take that will have a direct impact on your unwanted behaviors. So let's talk about what the goal of recovery and treatment for binge eating, food addiction, or emotional eating is. Well, it's really to help interrupt unwanted behaviors such as binging, overeating, stress eating, obsessing about food, or obsessing about your body. Now, if you have binge eating, research has shown that you may have very chaotic eating patterns, eating more at meals and at binges than people who are living in larger bodies who don't binge. You may also engage in weight cycling or yo-yo dieting. And I would say that that is the number one common factor in the patients I work with in the Anchor program, is that they've been on multiple, often too numerous to count, diets. So yo-yo dieting is going on and off diets, and you know what that means. You lose weight, then you gain it back, and usually you gain more than you lost in the beginning. Another common trait of people with binge eating, food addiction, and emotional eating is the loss of control over your eating behaviors. And this sense of loss of control really feeds also a feeling of failure, no matter where else you have succeeded in your life. The fact that you are unable to interrupt this cycle of overeating can make you feel really low, and it can be a ding on your self-confidence. Now, Buddhist theory views pain as being part of the human condition, but suffering is different than pain. It's distinct from pain. Suffering really is defined as non-acceptance of pain. And why am I talking about pain? Well, pain is directly related to all of the eating behaviors that we have. And I've talked in previous videos about the role that trauma or adversity in childhood, or just really bad experiences or chronic depression, etc., can play in terms of either triggering an eating disorder or making an eating disorder worse. So when we talk about pain, we do want to make this distinction between pain, which everybody has. You know, we all have some source of pain in our lives, but we don't have to always suffer. So suffering is non-acceptance of pain. So for example, if you go through a divorce after 20 years of marriage, of course, that's going to be painful, and you may feel angry and sad and resentful and a host of many, many other emotions. But suffering comes about when you refuse to accept that the situation as it is. So the situation being your divorce, and you refusal also to accept your feelings about the divorce. You may blame other people for how you feel, or you may get stuck in feeling sorry for yourself, or distract yourself from your true emotions by using food. So that's an example of where pain can then segue into suffering. Now, there are skills that can help you if you want to move on and you don't want to be stuck anymore and you just don't know how. So that's why I'm coming to you to talk about skills. Now, the skills that I use come from a type of therapy called dialectical behavior therapy, which originated with therapist Marsha Linehan. And I'm going to give you some examples from dialectical behavior therapy, or DBT, as we call it, that can help reduce your food obsessions, your overeating and binging, stress eating, and also body image issues and self-judgment. So let's start with the pros and cons skill. I think everybody who has, works in a business or has their own business knows that big decisions, we often use the pros and cons skill to make the right decision. Well, you can do the same thing in your situation around food and body image issues. So you would analyze your current situation for its pros and cons. And that way you can discover the different ways that the situation does and doesn't serve you. And I'm going to give you a couple examples in a little bit. So the second one is skills for immediately improving the moment. Now, there are various skills that can help you immediately change things right in the moment. These include prayer, relaxation, imagining yourself in a relaxing place, like at a beach or at a spa, and finding meaning in your pain. And then the third skill is the self-soothing skills. We call it self-soothing with the 5 senses. And these skills help you nurture and calm yourself without using food. For example, you might use self-soothing skills like taking a bubble bath, smelling a rose, listening to music, or noticing the beauty in nature. The fourth skill is the skill of distraction. And there's a whole, you could have almost an endless number of distraction skills. But what distraction skills do is help you put distance between a current situation, your feelings, and your behavior. So whatever the situation is, often we go automatically to food without even thinking about it or even being aware of what we're feeling. So the distraction skills enable you to put a little distance between the situation and then the automaticity of turning to food. Examples of ways to distract yourself would be like taking a walk, calling a friend, petting your dog, taking deep breaths, reading, watching television. And again, there are so many, many more. Hopefully, I would think that many of us have discovered some of those distraction skills during the pandemic when we've been home alone. And then the fifth DBT skill that I wanted to talk about is the push away skill. And this skill is useful when you're in a situation where you can't express your feelings or even sit with your feelings. So if you're at work, for example, and something big happens and you have to go into a meeting in 5 minutes, often we can't sit and have a good cry or yell or scream because we're at work. So the push away skill just enables you to do this. You would imagine putting the problem into a lockbox, locking it up, and then putting it on a high shelf in a closet, only bringing it down when it's appropriate for you to deal with it. So that's what the push away skill is. Now, before we go any further, I just want to mention one other skill. So the other skill I just wanted to not forget to mention to you is the skill of mindfulness. When you are mindful, you're observing and describing what you are experiencing, even when the experience is painful. So before you can use any of the skills I just mentioned, you have to be aware that something's happening. And as I mentioned before, often when we have a situation that's upsetting or overwhelming or stressful or emotional, we go automatically to food to push down our feelings without really acknowledging what we're feeling. So the mindfulness skill will enable you to really identify what you're feeling and notice that moment between something bad is happening, there's a feeling that I'm then going to push down with food. So before you grab the bag of chips or the box of donuts, or in my case, the bag of cookies, you can be mindful that something is happening that might lead to your next binge. And this just takes practice and awareness. So mindfulness allows you also to just sit with your experience, to participate in what you're feeling and change your reactions on a more conscious basis. One of the most important elements of mindfulness is really learning not to judge what you're feeling, or to judge what other people are feeling, or judge your situation. We know that these judgments are common. All of us do it. For example, we often describe things as good or bad, including food. So this is an opportunity when we use mindfulness to observe and describe what we're feeling without judgment. So I know that skills are not sexy to talk about, but they are absolutely necessary for changing unwanted behaviors. The best way to start, I mentioned to you, I was going to give you some examples of ways that you can use these skills. So let me do that now. For example, the pros and cons skill, you can ask yourself, what would be the effect on your life if you no longer used food to deal with your emotions or to deal with stress or other situations in your life? Obviously, there are many, many pros to stopping unwanted behaviors, such as, you would feel better about yourself, your life would be improved. But there's also some cons. You'd have to give certain things up. For example, if you stopped using food to manage your distress, you'd no longer enjoy the instant gratification that comes with using food to numb yourself, to comfort yourself, to be your friend, etc. Other situations that you can use all of the above skills from or with include when you're upset or stressed, because these types of emotions often lead to binging or overeating or obsessing about food. You could take a walk or call a friend, which are the distraction skills. If you feel overwhelmed or exhausted, which is a vulnerable time for your next binge, plan to use self-soothing skills to calm and nurture yourself, using a bubble bath, putting aromatherapy lotion on your skin, listening to calming music, sitting in nature, and the list is really endless. So see if you can identify at least 5 skills that you can learn and practice. And it may not work for you the first 1 to 10 times that you do it, but if you continue to practice, you'll be surprised that one time you'll use it and automatically it will work, and you will feel the level of distress that you're experiencing going way down, and therefore perhaps interrupting or preventing some unwanted behaviors. So, all of these aren't ones that you can use in all situations, and that's why it's useful to try different skills. As I said, if you get upset at work, you can't just run off and take a bubble bath. You'll need another skill to use until you can get home, maybe taking deep breaths, etc. So don't forget, though, to try to start with the mindfulness skills of observing and describing what you feel. Now, many of you have been going it alone for some time, and you've tried diet after diet after diet, and you may be coming to the conclusion, as many of my patients in the Anchor program had, that, something else is going on. This is not just about food or even weight, and you may want to get to the bottom of it. If you're still on the fence, use the pros and cons skill and ask yourself, should I continue? What are the pros of continuing to go it alone versus the cons? When you're ready, if you're doing great on your own, that's great, stick with it. If, on the other hand, you're ready for outside help and expert help and support, then see the link in the show notes. I just want to remind you to give us a rating with hopefully 5 stars, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and share this video with anyone that you think might benefit from it. Also, we'll remind you that we have an anchor program starting in about a week. And so if you are one of those people who has realized that you no longer want to go it alone, then schedule the free consult to see if the anchor program might be a good fit for you. This is Dr. Ross, Dr. Carolyn signing off. All the best.